what I love about Dibs and DLA and like GovCon, like they want what you're trying to sell them. I've heard no way more times than I've heard yes, but like you'd rather hear no than hear nothing because you didn't really try. I would say just do it. The more time you waste, the more bitch you're missing out on.
And we are live. What's going on, hustlers? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Day Cantave, and today we have a very, very special guest for you guys. We have Mr. Jerry Augustine, and he's here to tell us about his experience in the government contracting space. And then I have my right-hand man with me, Mr. Sam White, and this time we're actually together. So Sam, I managed to trap him and catch him in the same country for once. So without further ado, Jerry, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your journey, and how you got into government contracting.
Sure. Thanks, Day and Sam, for having me. Hey, everybody. My name is Jerry Augustine. I got into GovCon back in January. So I was looking around on YouTube. I found videos on Sam.gov and like the service side of the industry. But along the way, I found Day in around May-ish. Joined the course, and I got my first contract last month. So
Let's
happy to be
go.
here.
Let's go. Let's go. So tell us a little bit about like what prompted you to go onto YouTube and start researching, government contracting in general. Because I like to say it's a niche. So like, how did you get exposed to it?
So, like I said, I found out about
Mhm.
GovCon earlier this year. I was trying to find some ways to make extra money. I had an interview with a contractor who wanted a proposal writer. I picked his brain a little bit about what GovCon was and like the space in general. Thought about it for like a couple weeks. I figured, I can do this myself if I really wanted to. Just have to like really just try my best effort. So like 2 3 weeks later, I got my LLC. I got registered in Sam.gov. I tried to do like the middleman method, hit or miss. Some people like they pick up for a while, they stop responding. Some people take the opportunity. So I figured there might be a different way to go about it. Like I said, I found your channel a couple months later. So I like the videos. I feel like you're pretty straightforward in your content. I like the fact that you did it with your family, so it's kind of nice to see like that aspect of business being done with government. So that really appealed to me. So I took the leap of faith, and I I'm here.
So you started out because you had applied for a job, wanting to work for somebody else as a proposal writer, and then I guess after
Yeah,
he kind of gave you the job description and stuff, you were like, "That I'd rather do it. I don't want to work for somebody else. I'd rather work for myself." And then you decided to just get after it, and yeah, now you're in it. Nice, congratulations.
That's cool. Well, what was for you, Jerry? Like you said, you took a bit of a leap of faith when you took that step. So, what were some of your biggest concerns before, like, even getting into the space or working with us when you took that leap of faith?
I tried starting a business before, maybe like a year or two back. Didn't really work out due to like time conflicts with like work and stuff like that. Trying to like get a business off the ground, like and do that in person is kind of tough. So with GovCon, I like the fact that it's something that can be done like remotely. That aspect of GovCon, like you can do it anywhere in the world. Like you can really build your business up anywhere, anytime, any place. Like that really appealed to me. The leap of faith was really just in like trying to
Mhm.
get another business off the ground. I wanted to do something that I could really scale, like while I was anywhere, and have to like focus in one region or like be in one space just to work it. So that aspect of working in this space was appealing to me, but just believing in myself and just thinking that another attempt at starting a business would work. And I found that following your steps, just doing what you outlined in your course, it really just brought the results that I was looking for.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. But question for you: you mentioned that you had started another business and then it didn't end up the way that you wanted to. Could you talk a little bit about kind of like either what you learned, from that first experience that helped you translate into, this one getting off the ground and then, doing business with the federal government, or even some of the differences that you experience and maybe like some things that you prefer about GovCon maybe versus other business models?
Yeah. So back in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
I went down another YouTube rabbit hole where I tried to do virtual tours. Like having like real estate like Google Street View. Yeah, I tried doing that when I was living in DC. So I was going, up and down the streets of the businesses along Georgia Avenue for whoever knows about DC. So I was going up and down, have door to door, like, hi, my name is Jerry, my suit and tie, like
Yeah, pounding
doing
the
like
pavement.
on the pavement, yeah, going door to door, trying to get my sales going. Only got one client, um, but that just having that proof of concept, it does something for you. So like I knew that like if I could just like keep at it, that would scale. Even though like it didn't work out with that business, that lesson stuck with me. Like just the proof of concept, sticking to it, just like being gritty, just you know.
Yeah, that's a big one. Just being gritty and just like sticking it out.
Yeah. It's
And
like
just
that's such an important thing because like I speak to a lot of people who watch the channel and stuff, and like I tell them all the time, like anyone can do this. It's just whether like for most people, I think it's usually themselves is what gets in their way. Like they don't have that grit or that determination. So the fact you've come from something where you had to go door to door, like you've got those traits already. Like from my experience or our experience, those sort of traits is what sets you up for like just having that consistency and putting in that time till it's gonna work. 'Cause it's gonna work. It's always a matter of like,
yeah, just a matter of time.
yeah,
As long as you stay in the fight. And door to door sales, like that's brutal, bro. That is something that will chew you up and spit you out. That is something that makes you a man for real.
I've heard no way more times than I've heard yes in these past like 3 years, and honestly, like it hurts to hear no, but like you'd rather hear no than hear nothing because you didn't really
That's a
try.
bar.
So
Clip that. Clip that.
yeah,
Clip that, chat. Clip that. Yeah, you'd rather hear no than hear nothing. Because if you're hearing no, at least you know you're knocking on doors and maybe you're just
exactly.
one door away. That's a bar. I'd rather hear
Exactly.
no than nothing. I like that.
But yeah, that really helped with like bidding in dibs because like it took me like 15 no's to get my first yes, and
Mhm.
like that's kind of like small compared to like what other people might face. Like it might be like, oh, I got my first contract with my first bid. So like just that perspective is important to have in this industry. I've learned.
Yeah, and you learn more with every bid that you submit, right? Like you get faster at submitting, you get faster at reading procurement history, all that stuff. So every single one that was a quote unquote no got you closer to winning your first one, whether that be through experience or building relationships or whatever the case may be.
Going through pricing, seeing like the story behind each solicitation, like it really helps to like get an idea of your approach to things.
Nice, nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jerry, the people will want to know where are you at now in your journey? Where's the company now, and what's changed over the last few months for you?
So right now, my goal by the end of the year is to have all my processes and systems in place to go into 2025 strong. We reached 100 active bids, so I'm waiting to hear back for those. I did get a request for traceability earlier this week, and then I got two requests, and I got two requests to revise some bids I did send in, and that's the same thing I have with my first contract. So I know that's another step closer to.
Contracting officer reached out to you and asked you to revise.
No, sorry to cut you off, but it was the automated message. It asked me to revise the bid, but yeah, so that's three. I want me to hear back on, and 97 to go.
And question for you, because I know we spoke a little earlier this year. At what point did you start to like really get serious and then start submitting quite consistently? Because you just mentioned that now you've got 100 bids in and you won your first contract recently. So at what point did you like start to get after it and be like, okay, now I'm going to start submitting consistently?
So I was kind of a special case. I feel like I signed up for your course in May, and then I had to take a trip like a week later. So then I came back to the States in about June. I submitted. I started. I sent my first bid in June, and then I was on it for like about a week or two. I fell off. I got back on it in July, August ish, but then I had to take another trip in September. I had to study for a certification I'm trying to take in August. So just life events kept coming up, but I always still try to like put in time into dibs to get some bids in the system. I'll say October September from September on, I started like really focusing. So like I probably got the majority of my bids in like the last like 3 months.
Okay, there you go. So so it's really like only recently that you were like, okay, let me get serious about this,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you started getting you started like putting in more time in like September, October-ish, and then November was when you won
Got
your
my first.
first contract. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I know your goal is like 45 days or less. I feel like if I had started in May and like stuck to it, I definitely could have gotten that. But yeah, 45 days or less is definitely a valid metric to go by,
I mean,
in my
kudos to
opinion.
you though, because life happens and it's easy to get knocked off the wagon and then just not pick it back up. So that goes back to just being gritty and just being like, you know what, I said I was gonna do something and I made this promise to myself, so I'm gonna keep good on that. And I mean, even though didn't really start taking it seriously until September, winning in November, less than 2 months later, still not a bad progression, right? So still quite happy with your effort and the fact that you stayed in the fight.
So, what do you think, Jerry, when you really start taking things like much more seriously and honing in your processes, like what were some of the most important things that you've learned during that time?
I would say the biggest thing is to, like, learn the manufacturer that you're working with, like their supply chain,
Mm,
because in my case, I had to go from a third party supplier that had a discontinued part from the manufacturer. Those are the only parts I saw online. Like, I already had my lead from the sales rep from the actual company go cold. So from that point, I was like, they say they're approved to sell these parts. I have to get it, or else like I'm gonna have to cancel this contract. So I took that leap of faith again, like thinking that I'll get the proper like documentation, just to follow through
hmm
with the contract. Just knowing that like they're approved to get these parts from another approved source, like knowing like you can get that chain leading back to the actual company. I would say that's the biggest part I've learned of this whole process.
and going back to like just understanding the whole traceability thing, because I remember when we talked about it and you explained to me where you got it from. I was like, okay, it's still doable, but we've got to get the paperwork from these guys, proving that they got the paperwork from these guys, and then proving that they got these parts from Caterpillar. So definitely doable. But I'm glad that you were able to get like real world experience in terms of like piecing together traceability, because I think that's one of the biggest questions that a lot of people have is like, well, what does traceability mean, and then how do I go about putting it together? And when you explain to people, it's like, well, you can get it from somebody else besides the approved source as long as it's manufactured by the approved source, but you just got to get the paperwork to prove that. So your example was like a very like real life scenario of what it's like to have to get exactly what the government's asking for, but maybe not from exactly who they told you to get it from. So outside of the traceability and like the life just lifing, right? What were some of like your biggest challenges in terms of like getting the whole thing off the ground?
I would say one of them is definitely mindset. I feel like if you're used to like working a job or like not having like another thing, trying to make another thing like something, you're not gonna have like that experience with like just stick to it. It's gonna happen. You might fall off before it happens. You might think that you don't deserve to be in a space where like you can afford nice things or like go to Europe whenever you want, or just live the life that you want. But mindset is one of the things that I had to address. I'm still dealing with it,
Mhm.
honestly. But mindset, um, like just trying to figure out like how to go about doing things. But I feel like that comes with experience. That comes with
Yeah,
just research.
it's a very self-directed, like self-paced business. Like there's nobody there to like hold your hand and like give you guys like the blueprint and stuff, but like sometimes some of you guys might need something from a different aspect of ignore to award. Like you might need to go back and then watch like the market research part because you already did the SAM part, and then you have to go out of order, and it's just very like self-directed, like at your own pace. And then maybe one day it's like, well, I've been getting a bunch of RFQs, but today I've got to submit like a lot of bids, and like there's no like structure, there's no like nobody's there to tell you like, yo, this is what you need to do today. And Jerry, this is what you got to do Wednesday through Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday, this is what you do. So it's very self-directive, and I think that's something that just comes with like
For
entrepreneurship,
sure.
that a lot of people like can talk about, especially when you make that pivot like you did from like working a job where you've got tasks every week, and then you've got a paycheck coming every 2 weeks, and you have like the stability and the structure of it. So that's a very big one. And then I know you talked about like the whole mindset shift thing. It can be hard to like kind of remove like those limiting beliefs from thinking like, is this for me, or like, is this going to work, or is this something that I'm like capable of doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's like also a very real thing, is just like having to rewire your brain to believe that like I'm worthy and I'm capable and all that stuff
Yeah.
of having that favorable kind of like self esteem, if you will, like at the most basic level, just having that level of self-esteem and believing in yourself and your ability and the work that you
Yeah.
put in, because it's tough in the beginning when you start and you don't see anything, and then it almost just reaffirms like those like negative thoughts, like, oh, this isn't going to work, or like I'm not good enough. So that's a very real aspect of business that a lot of people don't talk about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think as well, like, because when you're dealing with the customer who's not going to go anywhere, and like they want to work with you, so
Yeah.
really it is like
Yeah.
it's on you whether like you can do this or you can choose not to do this, but like it falls on you. So it's having that just responsibility as just a business owner that like, okay, make that decision. I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, you asked me earlier about like my past experience with entrepreneurship. What I love about Dibs and DLA, like GovCon, like they want what you're trying to sell them. So like that aspect of it is pretty
Yeah.
is pretty solid to me.
Yeah, that it makes a difference, because when you do have those negative thoughts, when you're like, "Oh, am I good enough?" At least who you're trying to sell to wants to buy what you're selling. They want what it is that you have to buy. You just have to figure out how to sell it to them. So that definitely helps as well, in terms of just like staying in the fight. Like it definitely helps knowing that, okay, they want this, maybe they don't want to buy it from me right now, but they want to buy it from me at some point. So that definitely helps. All right, boom.
Okay, so as we're going into the new year now, Jerry, talk us through like what's next for you. What's 2025 looking like, and how are we going to make 2025 the best year ever for Jerry and Jerry's business?
Yep. So for next year, definitely trying to keep at the constant bidding. I'm on a streak right now, so I'm just trying to keep that going into the new year. I definitely want to pick a niche, maybe in Q1. These past bids I've done, they're across like multiple FSC codes, so I just want to pick one
Okay.
I can stick to and scale. Scaling is definitely my plan for next year as well. I feel like I could definitely make that happen if I just put my cards. So scaling, process.
Hey, somebody's riding a motorcycle. But when you say scale, like if you had to define that in your words, and the reason I'm asking you this is for accountability purposes, so that way it'll be out there on the internet, and then in 9-12 months you can come back to this and be like, I said I was going to do that and I did it. Define scale. Like for the people watching, what does scaling look like for you? Because for some people, scaling means I want to win 100 contracts, or for some people it's like, I don't care if I win 100 contracts, I want to make $100,000, and that could be from 5 contracts, it could be from 200 they don't care. So define scaling for Jerry.
I would definitely say it's on the dollar amount side. I feel like that's at the end of the day that's more important. You can win like 100 contracts, but all like $50 in profit. That's not like gonna take you far. So for me next year, I want to go from making maybe like 2K in a month, maybe like 20K in a month consistently. That comes with like months and months of like bids submitted with like filters from parts based that align with like the value I need to get to reach that number. So just finding the right contracts for me that align with like my metrics, my KPIs, like what I want to do for my business financially, like operations wise, just getting like hitting like those numbers. That's really my goal. Like I have a number I want to reach a month. And like once I get that, I really feel like I'm in a good space with the business.
All right, so we heard it here first. It's December 27, 2024. Jerry said he wants to make 20K a month from government contracting. We're going to do a follow-up at the end of 2025, and Jerry's going to come back and he's going to tell us that he smashed his goal and now he's making 30K a month. It's happening, and we put you on the spot, but that's good because now you've got some accountability partners. Anybody who watches this, they're going to see it and they're going to be like, well, Jerry said he was going to do it, so we're gonna stick around for a year and see what he does. So, yeah, I'm happy that you were able to put a dollar amount on it and a number and like define a goal, because a lot of times people say that they want to do better, that they want to improve or scale or grow their business, but they never define it. They never give themselves like benchmarks to hit. So I'm glad that we were able to get you to say that on wiretap, on recording. So.
And that North Star is like so important as well. Like again in business, like knowing what you're aiming for, because that's what pulls you through on the days when you're like, man, it's another no, it's another no, it's another no, and knowing like I've got this vision. That's what keeps you in the fight as well.
100%, 100%. All right, I'll let you take the last one, Sam.
So, Jerry, for anyone that's watching who's maybe considering either getting into just government contracting as a whole, or perhaps considering working with us and getting outside help, for you, what would you tell someone who is looking to getting started with the DLA and is considering coaching?
I would say just do it. The more time you waste, the more bids you're missing out on. You know that the government is always buying, so why not be one of their sellers? In terms of getting coaching, I truly believe you have to believe that you're worth investing in. So if you want to invest in yourself and get that proper guidance, like who's going to really take a chance on you in any kind of business you try to go about. So that's what I say to anyone trying to get coaching or guidance in this space.
Gotcha. And in terms of like the business model, right? Like you mentioned it already, but just to remind people, and I don't think anybody, I've never said it on the channel. I don't think anybody else has mentioned it, is at the end of the day, guys, the government wants what it is that you are selling. So if you're thinking about getting into business, it's not like marketing where somebody may or may not want your services. They're telling you straight up what it is that they want. So if you're looking for a business model with some security or some stability in terms of like a customer base, here it is, guys. The U.S. government. So I really appreciate you for bringing that up, Jerry. And I think for anybody who's already started and isn't feeling super good about themselves, or they're going through like a rough patch, just knowing that eventually it will come if you just stay consistent and you just stay gritty like Jerry did. Because it was like a 6-month difference from the time that we first spoke to the time that you won, because not because you were like lazy or because you like just couldn't care less, but just because life happens and sometimes you just got to stay in the fight. So I'm glad that you exhibited that, and I think a lot of the people that we have on the channel that we speak to, they all exhibit that same character trait of just like being gritty, like sticking it out. So I'm happy to hear that. And I don't know if you want to tell anybody this, but even more to illustrate, what it takes to like be in the fight, Jerry had to submit a PAR, which is a post-award request, to tell the government, hey, listen, I can get you what you want, but it's going to come from a different place. And he went the extra mile to let the government know, like, I will get this for you. However, I'm going to have to jump through a couple hoops. Are you guys willing to let me do that to fulfill the contract? So there's no traffic in the extra mile. And instead of just telling the government, yeah, I want to cancel the contract, Jerry was like, nah, I'm going to get all this paperwork. I'm going to fill out the post-award request, and I'm going to give you guys everything that you need, so that way I can get this material to you guys, so that way we can support the warfighter kind of thing. So again, kudos to Jerry. And I was very happy to hear from you when you shot me a text a couple months later. I was like, I'm glad to see that he's still at it. And hopefully we get a couple more updates from you, and you 5K a month, 10K a month, 15K a month, and then you hit that 20K a month.
I feel
mark. So we're looking forward.
Appreciate you, Dave.
Any last words? If you can leave the people with anything, if you want to say anything to anybody, the floor is yours, Jerry.
Anyone echo what Sam said. Find your North Star and stay hungry. If you really want what you want, it'll come if you put the work in for it. Don't lose faith when it comes to like getting your goals done in business or like, in general. And if
Mhm.
you need guidance, so don't waste time and get your lessons now. That's what I would say.
Appreciate it.
Beautiful.
Wise words. Thank you so much for taking the time, dear. I know that it's crazy. It's between Christmas and New Year's. It's like that time when like time is an illusion and everything's in like the holiday haze and everybody's got a full belly and everybody feels like warm and fuzzy. So thank you for taking the time to do this, and respect to you for staying consistent and still keeping your bidding streak going. You got anything, Sam?
No, I think I liked what Jerry said about just believing like you're worth investing in. Like if you're not going to invest in yourself, like who's going to help you? I think that's so important. Because some people, when it can be like a little bit fifth, like should I, shouldn't I? And I totally get it. But like, yeah, just knowing if you're, because it's that commitment to yourself when you invest in like getting help and being serious about going all in on something like this. When you invest, that you make that commitment, and that's what actually just accelerates your progress. Like so much more than just trying to fumble your way through it. And maybe, I don't know for you, Jerry, but maybe when like things were going on in May, if you hadn't have made that commitment, perhaps it could have been a different story for you. But you knew like you had to get back on the wagon because you were like,
Yeah,
I've got to make this work now. Like I've made that commitment, I've got to make it happen. So stuff like that, I think is just so important for really succeeding.
definitely. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerry. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I hope you learned something, or you got inspired, or this cleared up any questions. I hope it was inspirational or informational for you guys. And yeah, not only am I looking forward to you guys' success, I'm absolutely sure of it. Let's go get those dollars.